Hello, guys. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, irrespective of the time we are watching it. And we are learning Palo Alto Firewall, while today's topic is security policies. So, in any of the organization, in any of the school, college, wherever you are, or you are in any of the country, there are some rules. Like, let us suppose you are in any of the country, you are having some rules, or we can say the parliament, and parliament is writing some of the rules and you have to live according to those rules. So the same thing is happening inside the firewall, that whenever you are inside the firewall, any of the packet has to follow these rules, that whether I have to go here or I don't have to go here. So similarly the packet follows these rules. So let's see basically what are these rules. And in fact, these rules are called as the security policies. So let me log in a firewall and show you that what are the rules by default available in the Palo Alto Firewall. So let me log in it. In order to check the rules, we have to go to the policies. So because these rules are also called as the security policies, so in fact we call them as a policies, and under the policies it comes as the security. It means that we call them as a security policies. And here we go, we are in the policies, and inside policies we are having the security. It means that we are the security policies. So in the security policies we are having the rules. First is intrazone default and another is interzone default, right? So interzone intrazone is basically within the zone, means that from same zone, let us suppose you are in zone 1 and you are trying to communicate with zone 1, then it will be allowed, right? This is the rule, means that within the same zone you can communicate easily, there is a no issue. That is the default rule available in the Palo Alto Firewall. Whatever that I'm talking about, these are just for the Palo Alto Firewall. They might be different in other firewalls like FortiGate or Checkpoint or ASA. They will be different. Here I'm talking about only specific to the Palo Alto. Another rule is interzone default. While I said that this will be allowed, because at the, if you go at the more direction, you will see that rule is allowed, right? So, or accept. So I will show you, just let me discuss this interzone default as well. So for the first rule, the rule is allow. It will is written there in the right side. I will scroll it a bit. Don't worry. And for the interzone default, for the second rule, there is a rule that for the interzone means that if you are going, or in fact the packet is going from zone 1 to zone 2, by default it will not allow to go. It means that it will not communicate from zone 1 to zone 2 until and unless you explicitly write a rule at the top, just mind my words, at the top, that allow communication from zone 1 to zone 2. Means that you will make a rule that please allow communication, but mind my words that this should be on the top. Why I'm just saying that this should be on the top? Because these rules are checked from top to bottom. From top to bottom, it means that whenever any packet enters inside the firewall, it starts traversing these rules from top to bottom. It will check the first rule. Let us suppose we are having one rule here. Let me add it a bit. Okay, xyz source, it can be any. All right, okay, let me, it can be any or it cannot be any, fine. And destination is any, and I just, okay, destination zone, select any. Okay, now it's fine, I hit okay. So now I have a rule at the top, rule XYZ. All right. So it means that whenever any packet enters, and if it matches this rule that I have allowed, that any source, any destination, please allow this communication, right? Okay, let me show you that at the top right side I have what are the rules, right? So if you see here, for the first one I have mentioned it as an allow, and for the second means these are the default ones, these two. So for the interzone, not in fact interzone, that is intrazone, for the intrazone it is allowed, and for interzone it is deny, right? So this is like this, and I have added this one more rule which is for allow. So this is what happening, that if any of the packet is coming inside our firewall, it will just hit the rule first, this one, this, right, like this. And if it is matching this rule, then it is not going to check these 2 3 or whatever the list it is at the bottom. It is not going to check this. Whatever the policies or rule we are having, either it is allow or deny. If it is allow, it will allow the packet and forget the remaining rules. And if the criteria is matching for that packet, it means that like source zone or the destination zone, or it can be source address or destination address. If source address and destination address of packet is matching to any rule, then it is not going to check the further rules. It will just skip them whether you have allowed or denied for them. Don't worry, you will understand it very clear once I configure it and give you a demo. All right. So another thing what I'm going to do here, I will take this topology, right? So in this topology, what I have done, I have taken one machine here, which I have considered it in a trust zone. Trust zone means that it will considered as a internal, right? Intranet, you can say, our known zone. Another zone is outside, you can say, or untrust zone, that is connected to the internet. So this is basically an internet, and this can be treated as an organization left hand side. So it, in the typical environment, what is happening, we just connect a switch here something, and multiple computers are connected. Or if you want to extend for the multiple subnets, you can add a router here, then you extend it to the multiple switches, and then you connect to computer. So it can have a typical scenarios, but just to avoid such a large topology and explain you in 5 hours, I have just taken a simple example to clear your concept. Then you can apply the similar concept to the large environment, because if you know the basics, you can deploy very large environment. So that's what I'm going to do. I will configure a rule to allow this traffic from here to here. It means that I will allow this subnet 192.168. Again, mind my words, I will allow complete subnet, not this only this IP, right? I will be allowing only, not only, complete subnet, right? So this user, this IP address will fall under this subnet, and this will automatically allow to go to the internet. All right. And this is the internet. So for going to the internet, we also configure NAT. So I will be configuring NAT as well, but I will be not focusing on the NAT. So just I will configure it so that you can, if you are practicing, you can follow the same thing, but not explaining too much about that, because I will be taking later on sessions on the NAT focused on that one. And as usual, this computer is connected on the management interface. So I'll be connecting to the, I will be configuring the, or using the GUI through this machine. Another very important, whenever just you are, if you remember the packet flow in the previous session, I covered it. So what was happening in any of the firewall, it was checking three major things, and these three major things is not only for the Palo Alto, these are applicable for all the firewalls. Any firewall, what is checks, it checks the first security policy, that whether the traffic is allowed or not. Then it checks that whether we have configured NAT or not. If NAT is configured, it will translate the packet. So because we are using the internet, so we must have to use that. But if you have, I have taken a server here, and it want to communicate, then I might have not used to NAT, but as I have taken this example, so I will be doing NAT, but do not focus on that much as of now. Another thing, we have to do the routing, because if any of the packet travels here, let us suppose any packet reaches to the firewall, now this packet doesn't know in which interface the internet is, whether it has to go this direction, whether it has to go this direction, or it is having multiple interfaces, so another interface it has to go. So we have to define some routing so that this packet can be sent to this interface, then only it will be going to the internet. So these three things we are going to configure. Today's focus will be only on the security policies. I will be explaining more. So let's jump, and now we just delete this one, or let's modify this. Don't delete this. All right. So I'm giving it as name as an internet. Okay. So internet rule you can say, because this rule is for the traffic to send it to the internet. Rule type, there are three rule types: universal, intrazone, and interzone. And 99% we configure the rules under the universal, because if you do not configure the universal, then it might happen that your machine is falling in any of the zone, and it is going to another zone, and it is falling under the inappropriate rule, and it is not applicable to the firewall. So it is the best practice to go through universal, so that it will be applicable in all the packets. All right, so I'm going for the universal rule. Description, you can mention that under which change number you have configured it, if you want to it, or whatever the details you want to give it, you can mention it, right? So under change xxxx, fine. Tags, if you want to give, if you don't want to give, don't give. And group rules, because in production environment it can happen that you are having multiple groups related to one service, right? Let us suppose you want to allow traffic for specific servers. So sometimes what we do, we just group all the rules related to those servers. Like let us suppose you do allow for the SFTP, you do allow for SSH, you do allow for the internet for that server, you do allow some other applications like port number 8080 or something, right? So all the, rather than all the rules going up and down here, we just group them together so that it will be easy to manage them. So that's what we do it. In the source address, what I'm going to do, in the source zone, I'm going to take a zone as a trust. So I have created trust zone, and you know how to create them. If you don't know, you can go to some of the previous videos. Okay. So I have created trust zone, and on the trust zone, what I will do, I will take the source address, and my source address will be 192.168.1.0. From this to 192.168.1.255. So this is the way to configure a subnet in Palo Alto firewalls. In other ones we normally do, we just give a /24 and whole is covered. So here what we are doing, we are giving the complete range, so it will be explicitly explained that what exactly we are doing, right? So that's how we do. So it means that from 1.0 to 1.255, all the IP addresses will be allowed to go to the internet if I apply and successfully implement this policy. Another is user. So as of now, I'm not doing identity information, right? So any user will be allowed to go to the internet. And what about the destination? So in the destination, in the internet, it can be having any of the IP address, right? It cannot happen that you only allow for like 200.200.200.200, and next time you are trying to open a new website, and you have to allow. So what we normally do for the internet rule, we allow any of the traffic. So as usual it is, so nothing has to worry. But yeah, in the destination zone, I will select untrust, so that traffic can be allowed from trust to untrust. In the application, that if you want to allow only any specific application, you can choose them from the drop down. right? Only if you want to allow, let us suppose Facebook, right? So you can just select here add a Facebook, so only the Facebook will be allowed to go to the internet. Or if you want to allow Gmail, so you can allow Gmail only, right? And it can be done reverse as well. You can allow all and just block this Gmail. That we can do via custom filtering, so I will explain that later on. So as of now I'm not filtering any of the traffic. I will allow all the applications will be allowed to go to the internet. All right, so I think I will click any here. Service URL category, so here the option is application default, and most of the time it is asked in interviews that what is this application default. So I want to explain a bit more on this. Means application you we discussed right, that all the applications are allowed. I just selected any, it means that all the applications are allowed to go. Then why this option service URL and category is coming? Why this is coming? It is asking that application default. It means that the, let us suppose you are browsing the internet. So what you use port number 80 for browsing the internet, or you use port 443 for HTTPS if you are using, right? So application default means that I am using these default ports number. In some cases what happened, for the security reasons we do change these ports. Let us suppose we are using port number 8080, and then we translate this 8080 port to 80 only, or you can say 8000. So 8000 port number we used to translate in 80. That can be done here in this page. So application default means that whatever is the default port number for that service, I will be using the default one. I'm not going to change anything here. Next thing is our URL category. You can also filter the different URLs here. So if you want to add it, that which category you are to allow or deny. Let us suppose you want to allow only the news sections, or only the uh, home and garden sections, right? Hunting and fishing. So they are the different categories of the website. So based on these category, like social networking, right? Yeah, this is it here. Shopping. So you want to allow only, like, let us suppose learning, right? So let me see if we are having the training and tools. So if we want to allow for your organization that any guy, if he is accessing to the internet, he can use only websites related to this category, training and tools. If he want to use any website which is categorized as a social networking, he will not be allowed to use. So in order to explain it better, I will as of now I'm just selecting any, so that I can access any of the website, but you can allow or block them, and you can filter them as well. You can allow all and block any specific using the custom, so that will also come on the later part. And if all these actions are matching, then what you are going to do, you are going to allow it, or you are going to drop it, you are going to deny it, or you want to reset the connections, right? So you know these connect things: reset client, reset server. It means that it will send the in the IP packet, it will send the reset bit 1, right? We are having reset flag RST in the IP packet. If you don't remember, just go through the IP packet header, you will see that there is a flag as a reset. So as of now I'm going to allow. And one more thing, that I will log at the session start as well. By default it is logging at the session end, but I want to log at the session start as well. So that's how it is. I will click OK. Internet rule is set. Next thing, I will do NAT. So just close your eyes, don't look on this part because it is I'm not going to explain much here. So original packet coming from the source zone from trust, destination zone, it is going to untrust, translated packet, do the dynamic IP and port, and select the interface address to go to the internet. So just close your eyes, don't look onto this. But why I'm just telling you, because if you are like practicing in the real environment and you don't configure NAT and you are struggling to go to the internet, so that you have to do these things. That's why I'm showing you. All right, so that is fine. Click OK. And the two things I have done, I have configured security policy, I have configured NAT. Next thing is I have to do the routing. So I will go to the networks in the virtual routers default, and I will configure the static route to go to the interface Ethernet 1/2, right? This 1/2. So I will configure a rule to allow this machine to go to this interface 1/2. So name I'm giving as a default. So any IP address 0.0.0.0/0, if anything comes, and the next hop interface will be Ethernet 1/2. All right, and the IP address where I want to send it to the my default gateway. So here my default gateway is 192.168.137.2. So this can be different in your environment. So just mind this one. Just don't configure what I'm configuring. Just check your machine that what is the default gateway of your one, and that's what you have to configure. So for my setup, it is 130. Sorry, one not 137. 192.168.137. 137.2. Here we go, and hit OK. Again OK, and just commit it. So it will quickly commit it, and then we will test it. But meanwhile, I will just show you that am I able to ping here or not. So if I ping here the Google DNS 8.8.8, am I able to ping it from my machine? It is request timed out. I hope it is not committed. Yeah, it is committed. So it is now, it does allow the traffic to go to the internet. So I think it has committed now. So that's all, because before it was not committed, it does not allow, but once it has committed, it is started allowing go to the internet. So now let me check once again. Now all the packets will be allowed to go to the internet. Yes. So here in the machine, I will be able to use the internet. Let me just check it. Google, there's some problem, looks like web page not available. Why it is? I'm able to ping it, right? Okay, ping is working, but the internet is not working. This can be the case whenever we are having the wrong DNS setting. Let me check it. You might be confused at how do I know. So this is just a practice, and this is also asked in the interviews most of the times, that you are able to ping the Google DNS. Yeah, this is the case. So you are able to ping the internet and you are not able to browse the services. So this normally happens that whenever your DNS does not work. So you see that preferred DNS mine is blank. So that I will configure it as a Google DNS 8.8, and now it will be staying. Yeah, so I will just want to show you. Okay, I will just show later on, no problem. So here let me close it, and now let me check it. It should be working now. Now yes, it is waiting for Google, and here we go. So now we are able to access the things. Our internet is working very fine in our machine. On which one? This machine 192.168.1.10. Let me show you the IP address as well. That is my IP address here. That was if config IP config. Oh, if config is in the Linux environment. So this is the thing, that's configuration I have on this machine. Now one important thing, although it's going to be long, but I still want to show you that if you go to the security policies here, and that is why I want to show you, because that is the core of this one. Okay, this is NAT, this is security policy. So now we are having the security policy here that in the internet rule, this 192.168 1.0 to 1.255 is allowed to go to the internet. So our rule is hitting on this rule, right? Our traffic is hitting. How it is hitting, I will show you in the next session because it's going to be too long. So next session is basically like troubleshooting all these things, that what happens that if any of the user comes to you and says that, hey, my internet is not working, it is, can you check it, it is blocked in the firewall or not, right? So how the troubleshoot these things, I will come in the next session. But today, one more thing I want to show you, that if I add one more rule here, and that I want to block for, means that I have a rule to allow this guy 1.10 to go to the internet, but I want to block that user now. Means the remaining others will be allowed, but I want to block that guy. So source zone, it will be trust as usual, and IP address I want to say as 192.168.1.10 to 192.168 1.10. All right, although I can give 1.10 as well, but let's do like this way. And destination zone I want to give it as untrust. Destination should be any. Application is fine. Service URL category is fine. Actions I want to block this guy this time. I do not want him to allow it to go to the internet. So all right, I click OK here, and let's commit it. And now this guy will not be able to use the internet. Let's just check it. Quickly refresh this page. So before commit, it is going to the internet. It is working fine, and it is 98% now. 99. Do it, and it is successful. It is giving some warning. No problem. Rule, internet rule, shadows rule, block user. Okay, no problem. It is shadowing, so it is having different IP, right? Okay, this rule should be at the top, because right now if I refresh it, then it will be working, because for in order to block it, it should be on the top, not at the bottom. If I refresh it now, so my traffic will be hitting on the rule above, and there it is allowed to go to the internet. So if I want to block it, I have to put it at the top. Yes, so block user at the top, and now if I commit it, so it will be, this user will not be able to go to the internet now. It was really important to show you the monitor tab here, but I don't want to stretch it too long. I will cover it in the next session. That is really important whenever you are troubleshooting these things, that which of the traffic is allow or deny, right? So now if I refresh it here, or I can ping it here as well, meanwhile it does not go to the internet. You see, so what is happening, that it is uh, hitting the first rule, that it has to block it, and it is not checking the next rule, while in the next rule it is having the policy to allow this traffic, right? If you check this rule in the block user, it is checking, okay, this user is not allowed to go to internet. It is not checking the below three rules. So that's what it is happening in the security policies, always checking from top to bottom and left to right. All right, guys, so for the troubleshooting, I will record another session, that how basically you have to troubleshoot these type of traffics. Meanwhile, I want to pause. See you in the next session. Bye bye.